Hokage Starting from the Instant Full Level, Chapter 461 to 480. Chapter 461, we may talk about it. As one of the mission executors this time. Originally, I planned to secretly follow these three people and take revenge for the hundreds of millions of elders behind, and even the members of the Baroque Work Club. While providing convenience, it can also increase their chances of promotion. I never imagined that such a terrifying scene would be encountered. Who offered a bounty of 20 million Baileys were immediately wiped off the map. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, who would believe it? In retrospect, the spine is still, chills. Stop talking, our ship is in front of us. As long as we reach where we are, we can leave safely. The only thing we can do now is to pray for that guy, and he didn't find us. With long blue hair is running fast in the forest. A pair of long, white, jade-like legs that even a slender cloak could not cover. Looking at the gradually clear port through the trees in the forest, the girl's pretty face showed a hint of anxiety. It is. The girl rushed out eagerly, when she stood firm. The first scene that caught her eye made her pupils shrink suddenly. The huge bone dragon and the skeleton figure leaning on a scepter shook her nerves like a death god at this moment. Princess, run away quickly, I'll stop him. A low, urgent cry rang out suddenly. Who followed the girl, the curly hair hidden under the cloak, spit out two machine guns directly. The next moment, without any fancy, it suddenly turned. Bang 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 bang, the fiery bullets fell head-on towards Long Yu like a gust of wind and rain. The violent scene surprised Dusky and Nami. However, before they could react, the scepter in Long Yu's hand suddenly stomped on the ground. A cold voice suddenly echoed. Second-level magical death imprisonment. PFF'd. The dark mist, like a frenzy, exploded inside the body. With an extremely fast attitude, it passed the incoming bullet, turned into a tentacle, and quickly spread away on the girl and the big man. Before they could react, the body, which was moving freely, lost control in an instant, unable to move. As for those so-called bullets, they fell on Long Yu's body like a rain of bananas, and finally scattered on the ground. After finishing all this, Long Yu held the scepter and walked towards the two of them. You, don't come here. We are members of the Baroque Work Society. If you dare to kill us, let our president know that it is a dead end. A hysterical roar came out of the man's mouth. Face, it's scary. The skeleton of the man, shrouded in the cloak's legs at this moment, is almost uncontrollable, shaking like a twist. However, facing the threat of these words, Long Yu seemed to be completely unknown. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he crossed the man's side and came to the girl's front. The right hand, which was made of bones, suddenly came down. He directly lifted the cloak covering the girl's head. Sky blue hair fell down like a waterfall. Which delicate and tender white face is full of pale colors. However, in the face of Long Yu, who is close at hand, with red eyes and red lips biting tightly, it gives the impression that he is trying his best to suppress the fear of Long Yu in his heart. He just refuses to let himself beg for mercy, and even whine. When meeting Long Yu's deep soul flame eyes, the slender hand hidden in the cloak suddenly moved. Burning sounds suddenly sounded. The fast-burning gunpowder quickly spread to the explosive that was clenched tightly in her slender hand. This is her last resort of suicide. When she joined the Baroque Work Club, she had already embraced it, and if it became too dangerous to be solved, she would die. However, as soon as the burning gunpowder was lit up, it was quickly pinched out by the big hand of the bones. Bone-chilling voice immediately fell in their ears. Princess Wei Wei, don't be too impulsive, we may be able to talk. Long Yu looked at the blue-haired girl in front of him. She should have just joined the Baroque Work Club, the princess of the desert kingdom of Alabasta, Neferuta Liweiwei. As for the wretched uncle next to him, he is the captain of the Kingdom Guard, Equilem. Originally, when Long Yu was in Rog Town, he noticed the two of them. However, I didn't expect that Vivi and Ecolem would follow this place in order to break into the Baroque Work Club as soon as possible. Originally, Long Yu was still there, thinking about where the Bone King would settle. It seemed that Alabasta, which was occupied by Chihuahai and the Sand Crocodile, might be a good place. Princess Vivi. The two of Dusky couldn't help but startled. Looking at this outstandingly beautiful girl in front of her, and the temperament exuding from her whole body, it is indeed the name of the princess in Long Yu's mouth, which is unusually consistent. You, what nonsense are you talking about? What is Princess Wei Wei? We are just members of the Baroque Work Club. You, don't get me wrong. Ecolem explained anxiously. As the princess of a great country, no matter what. How the power of the country is weakened. Chapter 462, Come to a Cooperation. It can be said that one's identity must not be exposed, otherwise it will fall on those who have a heart and become a bargaining chip for coercion. That will probably speed up, and Alabasta will disintegrate. Haha, it's interesting, it's really interesting. Long Yu stretched out the skeleton's big hand, and under the nervous eyes of Wei Wei and Ecolem, rubbed Wei Wei's head lightly, and said, You can deny it, but it won't do any harm to us. I just want to tell you that you are not able to deal with the people behind the hidden Baroque Work Club. Words fell. Wei Wei, who was originally very afraid of Long Yu's big skeleton hand, suddenly changed her expression and asked anxiously, You are not the president of the Baroque Work Club, are you? No way, we've heard his voice, you're not him. After seeing it with his own eyes, Long Yu could use his hands to sink tens of thousands of meters. The shadow of fear was clearly imprinted in their hearts. In front of you is really their enemy of Alabasta. I am afraid that the most warriors are not worth a casual blow. Hee, you girl, you are really interesting, I like it very much. Long Yu patted Wei Wei's shoulder with a dry smile, and said, However, liking is one thing, but this time, I'm looking for you for a cooperation. For example, kill Shichibukai Crocodile. Kill Shichibukai. The icy voice burst like thunder at this moment, shaking everyone's nerves. Shichibukai's reputation, but even Nami, who lives in the East China Sea, knows a thing or two. Not to mention, Dusky and Vivi and Ecolem in Alabasta in the first half of the Great Passage. You, what nonsense are you talking about? We're not from Alabasta, and we don't need to kill Crocodile. Ecolem's expression changed, and he made a quibble in a hurry. However, as soon as these words fell, she saw Wei Wei shaking her head, looking stubbornly at Long Yu, and said, Ecolem, don't say it, he is not a Baroque worker. I want to know why you are like this. I want to kill Crocodile. The same day, in Alabasta, Vivi found out that the dance fans were related to the Baroque Work Club. However, they are suspicious of the president lurking behind the scenes. Long Yu suddenly made such a strange transaction, which undoubtedly made Wei Wei more sure of her guess, and there was still time, lurking in the Baroque Work Club, where there were clues. The most important point, the strong disdain to lie. In particular, this ruthless young man in front of him. Princess. Ecolem suddenly panicked. However, Wei Wei quickly glared at him and swallowed the words that came to her mouth. Looking at this scene, Long Yu withdrew the big hand of the skeleton, and immediately snapped his fingers. That was originally wrapped around them also collapsed. Hee, it seems that Princess Wei Wei also has the sincerity to continue the conversation. That is to show my sincerity, let the two of you restore your freedom first. Long Yu gave a dry laugh and said, However, if you want to escape, don't blame me for being ruthless. Your Majesty Laxus, don't worry, we won't escape, but I want to know why you are sure that the black hand behind the Baroque Works Club is Chihuahai Crocodile. After Wei Wei relaxed her slightly numb body, she hurriedly asked. After all, even she and Ecolem, who have spent a lot of effort over the years, cannot be sure who is behind the scenes. As soon as Long Yu appeared now, he opened his mouth and nodded, and he showed such a positive attitude, which really surprised them. I guess, do you believe it? Long Yu glanced at Wei Wei lightly, and said, "Also, what you want to do is not to ask me why. Yes, agree to the deal, and cancel the deal. Also, my current identity is not Laxus, you can call me Ains or Gong." The awe-inspiring voice was mixed with undoubted taste between the lines. Ecolem became anxious, and was about to say something, but was stopped by Wei Wei's probe. "Lord Ains, I don't mean to offend, but this time the transaction is too involved." Seeing Long Yu's face with an unquestionable expression, Wei Wei gave up the question and said, "If Your Excellency Ains really intends to make a deal with us, I still need to contact my father to confirm it. So, I hope Your Excellency Ains can give us enough time to contact Alabasta." As the princess of a big country, she also dared to sneak into the Baroque Work Club for undercover investigation. Wei Wei's courage and means are not comparable to those of an embroidered vase. Facing Wei Wei's stubborn gaze, Long Yu laughed loudly and said, "It really is a woman who doesn't allow men. However, don't worry, I, Anzi or Gong, will not be hard on others. I agree to your request. Just, I hope you will go with me on the next journey." Chapter 463, While You're Sick. Walking forward together, Wei Wei was stunned at first. However, before she could give any answer, Long Yu's deep-set eyes, the flame of his soul jumped slightly, and said, "Okay, this status is temporarily over, then, I will still be Laxus in your eyes, don't let me outsiders know." The inexplicable words made the people in the field stunned for a while. Only Dusky guessed one or two, and then saw the huge bone dragon, like a black mist, scattered between the sky and the earth. The posture of the Bone King transformed by Long Yu also dissipated directly in front of everyone, restoring Laxus' cold and arrogant face. Looking at this, the faces they met in Rog Town, the tension and oppression in the hearts of Vivi and Ecolem dissipated a little, then. It was soon seen that behind the huge coast, there was a huge warship. Fluttering on it, representing justice, made them stunned for a moment. Regardless of. It's Dusky and Wei Wei. They are all people who have been active in the first half of the Great Passage. This huge warship in front of me is a multi-masted warship, a ship that only appears in the Great Channel. Moreover, the person who can own this kind of warship is definitely an important existence in the Navy. "Mr. Laxus, I finally found you." Bastiu's urgent cry suddenly sounded. Soon, everyone noticed that on the huge deck of the ship, besides Bastius, there was an unexpected figure. "It's a naval hero, Lieutenant General Garp. How could he appear here?" Dusky's expression changed slightly. Not long ago, she was most looking forward to joining the Navy headquarters. Of course, she knew a little about these generals. In particular, Garp, known as a naval hero. It can be said that as long as you are walking in this sea, you absolutely know what this means. Navy hero. Ecolem's face changed slightly, and he looked at Wei Wei subconsciously. In his eyes, Garp's appearance was undoubtedly an unexpected change. If you reveal Long Yu's identity as a skeleton demon right now, you may be able to have a chance to escape. However, Vivi clearly understood Ecolem's thoughts, and quickly shook her head to reject it. It can be said that in Alabasta, the people of the Baroque working society are gradually eroding. She and her father, but many times put their hopes on the army. Sadly, I was disappointed time and time again. What's more, if Long Yu just did. Hidden behind the scenes of the Baroque Work Club is the Shichibukai, crocodile, who has the privilege and is recognized by the world government. No. There is enough evidence to disprove him. Once that guy's plan is broken, and there is not enough evidence for the Navy headquarters to act, what awaits them is still the unpunished crocodile. There is also endless revenge from Chihuahai. Therefore, the only thing Wei Wei can do at the moment is to temporarily enter the stage of transaction negotiation with Long Yu to avoid unforeseen problems. What's more, once the identity of Long Yu was revealed, Wei Wei believed that at this distance, the other party could kill her dozens of times. "Little devil, accept your life." The shouting sounded suddenly. Bang! Garp took a big step, and the whole person disappeared like a ghost out of thin air. The violent scene changed the expressions of Dusky, Nami and the others. After all, just now, Long Yu relied on another identity to erase the Murloc paradise. However, before they could return to their senses, Long Yu's voice had already sounded. "You step back." The simple 4 words were uttered, and the thunderlight bloomed like a tide on Long Yu's body. At the same time, the arrogance of seeing and hearing was pushed to the extreme, and it swept the area of KM like a frenzy. Before everyone could react, Long Yu suddenly clenched his 5 fingers tightly, and under the endless surge of thunder, he punched forward. Thunder Dragon's Collapse Fist. Boom! With a punch, the air in front of me, as if being penetrated, swelled with large air ripples. Garp's figure appeared, and his pupils were filled with thunderlight in front of him. It was too late to think about it, and the moment when the armed arrogance quickly covered his fist, he punched through it without any hesitation. Bang! The dull collision sound resounded suddenly. That feeling was like a thunderbolt from the blue sky, and the splashing thunderlight, like a wild dragon, directly shattered the surrounding reefs and rock formations. The violent waves that were set off made way and the others fly directly out. However, in the face of all this, Long Yu didn't seem to care about it at all. Hands clasped together suddenly, he was dormant, and the lightning in his body, like a volcano, directly detonated. One hit, as long as he can take a slight advantage, Long Yu has only one motto. Take advantage of your illness to kill you. The jaw of Thunder Dragon. Fists and 10 fingers were suddenly clenched, and at the moment when the endless thunder light burst out, the fists were like the incarnation of Thor's hammer, and they slammed down towards Garp, who had just appeared and was tired of dealing with the attack. Witnessing this scene, Garp's turbid old eyes instantly brightened, facing the attack from the force. He didn't even have the slightest intention of defending, and the 5 fingers of his right hand suddenly clenched tightly, in a posture of killing 1,000 enemies and self-destructing 800. Chapter 464, Warm Up. Towards Long Yu's abdomen, it suddenly smashed out. Bang! 2 dull collision sounds resounded like thunder. The raging fist wind wave turned into a furious wave and rolled away like a frenzy. 2 figures flew out from the center of the explosion. 5 steps, 10 steps, 15 steps. When Long Yu took the last step, the heavy rock shattered in response. It directly affected a radius of 100 meters. Other hand, Carp also retreated 10 steps, and also smashed the huge reef. Looking at this, the 2 of them were torn apart, and the nerves of Dusky and the others who were present were extremely tense. After all, the person in front of him is Lieutenant General Garp, a legendary existence known as a naval hero. Not careful, the fear that awaits them is a certain death. However, as soon as the idea came into being, a sudden burst of laughter made their expressions stagnate for a while. "Ha, you brat, your fighting skills are really consummate, and your high-level armament is domineering. At a critical moment, you display Liu Ying to offset my punching power. You are indeed the person that this old man likes." Carp burst out laughing. Of armament covered on his body converged into his body like a tide. The arrogant and domineering aura he had originally dissipated all of a sudden, and after digging his nostrils, he said, "Boy, did you just scare you?" Garp, who suddenly gave up the idea of fighting, Long Yu's expression remained the same, and said, "Mr. Garp doesn't have murderous aura, otherwise I wouldn't be warming up just now." Warming up Dusky and the others, he couldn't help being stunned. The many exceptions on the warship that Bastius was on. It was the first time they had seen a junior, and they had made such a statement with Lieutenant General Garp. "You kid, you are really crazy." Glancing at it, he still pointed his nostrils and said, "I just heard Bastius say that in addition to your physical skills and devil fruit abilities, you also know kendo. Just now, I was planning to force you out, but I didn't expect that you brat would dare to fight with me. However, this method is against my old man's temper. What do you think about my invitation that day? Why didn't you join the Navy headquarters and become a brigadier general?" This time, the old man returned to the East China Sea to dig some talents for the Navy headquarters. There are places on the list. Speaking of which, Garp lowered his voice slightly and said, "Don't worry, even that guy Akainu can't stop you. The big deal. We beat him secretly." Who looked disrespectful to the old man, spoke secretly but made no secret of his words. The confidants behind him felt helpless. As a lieutenant general, if he dares to say such a thing, I am afraid that only Garp can do it. No, it should be said, I am afraid that even the generals do not have such confidence. No, I don't like it, the rules of the Navy, and the ugly draconian. Long Yu directly refused. Regardless of the conditions given by the Navy headquarters are excellent, and he does not like to be under others. At least, as the strongest in another world, this is not allowed. Haha, I knew it, you kid would say that. Garp laughed loudly and said, "That's it, I can't handle such a thing as a lobbyist. However, you kid, the battle you made just now can be felt across most of the island. When I passed by, the stronghold occupied by the Murloc dragon was directly razed to the ground. It seems that you are hiding. It's really deep, and it's a good choice to have Bastius follow you." Regarding the existence of Bastius, Long Yu has his own ideas. At least, he is one of the key pieces for Long Yu to grow his fame and make the world turbulent. It was for this reason that Long Yu would let Bastius follow him. "Mr. Garp, the teacher is also tired. If I knew you would be tossing like this, I wouldn't bring you here." Bastius smiled helplessly. Just now he was ordered to intercept Lieutenant Colonel Mouse, and at the same time to take over the naval branch. On the way back, I happened to meet Garp returning to the East China Sea to be lazy. After learning that Long Yu was in Kokoja village, he came directly here. "You old boy, you really blame me." Garp glared angrily, and said, "However, it seems that this is a period of time, and the old man did not patrol the East China Sea, not only the evil dragon, but also the worms in the Navy. Must sweep. Go back to sweep." Bastius was stunned for a moment, and said, "Mr. Cap, where are you going now?" "Where to go?" Garp rolled his eyes and said, "Of course I'm going back to my hometown, seeing my precious grandson, and digging out talents for the Navy headquarters." Chapter 465, Shun Shui Favor. Ahem, Lieutenant General Garp, this is the 38th time you have used this excuse to secretly return to the East China Sea. On the deck coughed dryly. Directly, it caused the whole warship to burst into laughter. They were not surprised by Garp's excuse. However, in the possession of a Navy hero, this status gold medal is still there, but there is no way for the Warring States period and even the 5 old stars to take Garp. After all, if Roger is the soul of the pirates, then Garp's existence is the justice that the Navy insists on. Looking at this scene, Long Yu finally understood why Garp was always haunting the East China Sea, and he couldn't find talents such as Zoro and Sanji. The face of this talented East China Sea, Long Yu decided not to let them be wasted. "Mr. Garp, are you planning to go back to see Luffy?" Long Yu said. Garp couldn't help but startled and said, "Little devil, you actually know Luffy." For the existence of Luffy, he has always been with the bandit Daiden. Moreover, only a few people know that he has a grandson. "Mr. Garp, you have grandchildren?" Bastius froze in shock. No, it should be said that the people on the whole ship were equally stunned. Seeing everyone's astonished expressions, Garp poked out his nostrils, showing a natural stunned expression, and said, "It's fine if I didn't say it, you still can't say this kind of thing." Looking at Garp, who seemed to be able to erase everyone's memory with just one sentence, the Navy soldiers present were suddenly speechless. Long Yu was already accustomed to Garp's character design, and hesitantly said, "This is what Ace told me. However, I advise Mr. Garp to take Luffy to the Navy headquarters this time, or else that guy will accidentally slip away and become a pirate. By the way, here are 2 relatively rubbish famous knives. You can drop by the way to Frostmoon Village and give them to a Navy hunter from Roro Azoro, There is also a sea restaurant with a chef with good legs. There is a good person in Xiluobu village that you can pack and take away. You will definitely be able to produce generals in the future. The slightly long-sounding voice reverberated between heaven and earth's delicacy. Pooh couldn't help but froze in place. After a while, he couldn't hold back and said, You kid, wouldn't be from the East China Sea, even these people know so clearly. Also, don't you need a companion? Why don't you recruit it yourself? Long Yu laughed dryly and said, They are too rubbish, let your navy train for a while. Come on, I'll pry the corner again. You brat, you really are a bastard. Sweep the rubbish to our navy. Carp laughed out loud. But he quickly thought of something, and he blew his beard and said, You stinky boy, the grandson of this old man, is not rubbish. You wait and see, the next time we meet, those guys, I will bring all of them. Looking at Garp who was really moving, Long Yu threw the two famous knives to Garp with a smile and said, Thank you. Regarding the future of the straw hat, Long Yu originally only planned to dig a navigator and that would be enough. However, after thinking about it, this group of idiots, Lu idiots, plus color embryos, and a big talker. Without navigators, 90% of them would not be able to get out of the East China Sea. Since Long Yu has always advertised as being a good person and doing good deeds, he had no choice but to be a good man and cheat on him again. What's more, establishing a connection here can also play an indirect role in the turbulence of the sea in the future. Find a large key for Long Yu for convenience. Little devil, don't worry, the old man will definitely tie that guy Luffy to the Navy headquarters this time. If you don't listen to my grandfather like Ace, that won't work. What, the new leader of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, Fire Fist Ace is Mr. Garp's grandson. What did you say? I didn't say anything just now. What Ace? He's not my grandson. Mr. Carp, when you lie, can you stop picking your nostrils, and your booger, can you stop playing it casually? Looking at the noisy warship, he turned around and left. Bastius also threw himself on another schooner and watched them leave. As Garp said, Bastius still needs to stay by Long Yu's side to learn. Carp is also resigned to the willfulness of his younger generation. At the same time, in the Navy headquarters, the huge conference room, Warring States was sitting in the first place with a gloomy face, and slapped the desk suddenly. Damn Garp, at this time, he secretly ran back to the East China Sea, and next time I come back, I have to beat him up. Looking at the dignified Warring States Marshal, who is known as a naval think tank, can be so angry, only his old friend Garp can do it. After a full half a minute, he noticed that the anger of the Warring States period was almost gone, and the crane on the side took out 2 pieces of information with his backhand and handed them over. Not long ago, Qingzi sent Wald's information. He has escaped from the East China Sea, as if he was picked up by his former subordinates. The most important thing, the pirate ship that Guy owns has huge ship guns. Huge ship cannon. To see the underlined version of the novel, please download the latest chapter of Fakon. Chapter 466, He Can't Escape. The look of the Warring States suddenly changed. He hurriedly opened the information on the table, and looked at the photos on it. It was a ship like a giant island. Among them, the huge ship guns dozens of meters long made his face gradually gloomy. Marshal of the Warring States, what's the problem? A young Major General couldn't help but asked. Now that General Qingzi is rushing back from the East China Sea, why don't we join forces and block Walder in the sea? That's a real catch. Stuck in the sea. Gloomy, and he said with a cold eye, it seems that these days, the new juniors still know too little about history. How can such preparations be able to cope with various dangers on the sea? If only, we can catch the Great Skeleton Demon. Looking at the Akainu who brought the matter to the Great Skeleton Demon, the people present instantly knew that Akainu was still feeling aggrieved by the defeat on the Chambord Islands. After all, the 2 generals of the dignified team joined forces to make a young boy retreat. Under the blockade of the Chambord archipelago, a 3-foot search was carried out, but nothing was found. Gives the impression that the great skeleton demon is like air, disappearing out of thin air without a trace. Akainu, it's all right. Warring States opened the topic and said, now the great skull demon is silent, as long as he doesn't come out for a while, we can also free up our hands and catch the others first. It's also a good countermeasure to concentrate on dealing with the prisoners such as Wald after they have resolved them. Regarding the strategy of the Warring States period, the generals present had no objection, and even the crane nodded secretly. Only Akainu, who was full of frustration, was obviously a little impatient. After all, rumors are flying all over the world right now, ruining his title as the most powerful general. Okay, there are quite a few new Navy elites present, but I don't know much about the pirates who were imprisoned in the Advanced City prison decades ago. Sengoku was the first to speak and change the subject. With his backhand and said, now, let me tell you about it first. This time, the pirates who escaped from the Advanced City prison are the world destroyers. 30 years ago, there was a reward of 200 million. Now the reward amount is 500 million. With the Momo fruit, he is best at magnifying the speed, strength, and physique of cannonballs by 100 times. 30 years ago, that guy was fruitful, increasing the power of huge cannonballs by 100 times, not only attacking the navy, but even pirates, and even threatened to destroy the Holy Land Mary Joa. Speaking of this, the Warring States took out the photo of the huge ship in his hand and said, I never imagined that the crazy idea that he couldn't experiment on that day was actually captured by his hand. Down, in 30 years. With the ability to increase 100 times, if it is equipped with a huge ship cannon of dozens of meters, what level of power will it reach? I am afraid that a single blow can destroy an island. If Wald really goes berserk, waiting for the threat of our naval headquarters is definitely not smaller than the great skeleton demon. These words fell, the newly promoted admirals suddenly gasped. A huge shell with a diameter of tens of meters, if it is increased by 100 times again, was so huge that words couldn't describe it. Once it really exploded, those who were waiting for them would be sure to die. Got to this one, they finally understood what the legendary great pirate was. No wonder, even Qing Ji, who was a general, was able to escape from the East China Sea by personally chasing him. Okay, now that everyone knows his danger, then we will pursue it next, and we must arrest Walder before he goes mad. Warring States said in a deep voice, I want to know, what proposals do you have? These words fell, everyone's eyes subconsciously turned to the two generals present. Although, the legendary big pirate is a huge military exploit. However, let alone a major general, not even a lieutenant general is an opponent. If there is no general to lead the team, it will be a death sentence. All go. Akainu suddenly spoke up. The violent scene was a bit surprising, even for Kizaru. He said with a crooked mouth, Brother Akainu, I didn't expect you to be so active this time, that little brother, I don't even bother to make excuses. Seeing this scene, Akainu was obviously not surprised, and after a cold snort, he reached out and planned to remove the information on the table. Akainu, don't be impulsive. Sengoku suddenly spoke, causing Akainu's outstretched hand to stop in the air. Facing all this, Akainu's face sank slightly and said, Marshal of the Warring States, if you have anything, can you finish it all at once? To deal with an old man who is about to die, I can handle it. The awe-inspiring voice was mixed with an unmistakable taste. Sengoku sighed helplessly and said, Akainu, I know that you are eager to catch Wald, and you are planning to wash away and count the defeat of the great skeleton demon, but I want to tell you that this is not just your personal shame, it's still about the face of the Navy headquarters. So, this time I don't plan to let you go out alone, and the yellow monkey will also support you. He has the ability to shine fruit. Once Wald falls into the encirclement, with the yellow monkey, he can't escape at all. Chapter 467, Shichibukai's Summoning Order. Speaking of which, the Warring States backhand grabbed another document and said, Also, I have already applied for the Chiwahai recruitment order. Those guys who have been running the Chiwahai for a long time should also contribute. 7. Wuhai recruitment order. These words fell, the expressions of many people in the field changed drastically. The existence of Shichibukai is a special pirate camp established by the world government in order to deal with pirates. Moreover, every one of the pirates who can become the Shichibukai is a famous existence in the sea. Marshal of the Warring States period, this is too much labor and teachers, and those Chiwahai will not agree to it casually. Kazuna said with a crooked mouth. Their naval headquarters in Shichibukai. However, these agreements, Chiwahai has the right to refuse. Don't worry, this time the 5 old stars agreed that we will use the forced recruitment regulations. There are still a few people in the Chiwahai. During this time, there is no time to complete the task for the world government, so they must be present. Warring States said in a deep voice. However, even if they come, they will only be able to exert a little deterrent effect and really make them work hard. This is absolutely impossible. So, at that time, you still need to wake up 12 points. Speaking of this, the Warring States looked at he and said, also, wait a moment and contact the Sand Crocodile. That guy has not fulfilled the Chiwahai Treaty for a long time. If he doesn't come this time, let him wait for our navy to siege him. Seeing the rare domineering Warring States period, the admirals present sat up one after another. Feeling the rising of the atmosphere, the crane couldn't help but smile and said, don't worry, I have found the whereabouts of Crocodile. He seems to be hiding in Alabasta to become a hero. Pirates as heroes. Warring States frowned and said, I heard that Alabasta has been dry for years, and that guy ran to be a hero. However, as long as Crocodile promises to come to help out, according to the agreement of Chiwahai, we still don't care about him too much, and focus all our energy on dealing with Walden the Great Skeleton Demon. That shocked the New World. One after another were once again swept away by the legendary great events. Moreover, in this matter, there is no trouble with the skeleton demon in the Chambord archipelago, and it is also related. 7 days later, a single-masted ship appeared in Alabasta, outside the port of Rapeseed. That had become clear after a long time. Wei Wei, who was standing on the deck, couldn't help clenching the phone bug in her hand. The moment she saw Long Yu's back, she had a numb shock on her face. Teacher, I have memorized all the 6 forms profound truths you mentioned. I never thought that I would be able to adjust the power of the 6 forms profound truths with the help of paper-painted martial arts. Bastiu held a notepad and looked at Long Yu with a sincere expression on his face. These 7 days, Long Yu was not idle, and dug out the 6 types of navy and the profound meaning of the 6 types in Bastius' mouth. Then, use the instant full-level system to learn them all, in order to further enhance their own strength as soon as possible. However, the only thing that makes people feel regretful is that the 6th-style profound meaning that Bastius understands is far worse than that of Rob Lucci. Moreover, Long Yu has only demonstrated to Bastius the use of the 6 forms, and he is only at the stage of explaining the 6 forms profound truth. Most importantly, the information that Bastius has put forward is really lacking, even if Long Yu has a wealth of combat experience to support it. It is also difficult to deduce the 6 forms profound truth in 1 hour and 3/4, and achieve an instant full level. However, just relying on Long Yu's own opinion, and the recent period of time, he taught Bastius high-level domineering chi sakra's display method, and his attitude of worshipping himself has risen to a new level. After all, Long Yu has an instant full-level system, and the knowledge and experience he has acquired from Liu Ying are not comparable to those of the Navy who are exploring alone. If you really want to pursue it, I am afraid that even the Naval Recruit Battalion, responsible for recruit training, and the former Admiral Zepha, can't compare with it. Teacher, can you bring me back to the Navy headquarters with the idea of drawing a martial body on paper? If you let Teacher Zepha know, he will be very happy. Bastiu couldn't help staring at Long Yu's face and suggested. After all, the most taught in the Navy is the basic 6th style display, and the other extended skills are all trained by themselves. Among them, this paper-painted martial arts body is to increase one's own strength or speed by adjusting the body's chi, and raise one's own strength to a higher level. It can be said that it is to abandon one of the strengths and raise the boundaries of the other strengths to the extreme. And this concept has not yet appeared in the Navy headquarters. It was stolen by Long Yu from Rob Lukey, a physique genius who had been hard to come up with in hundreds of years. In front of Bastius, a concept was also proposed. Chapter 468, Will Fight. Although, this concept seems elusive. However, a person who can point out the direction is better than moving forward by feeling the stones in the dark. However, in Bastiu's eyes, the concept of this paper-painted martial arts body was proposed by Long Yu. If you don't get the approval and take it back rashly, I'm afraid something is wrong. Whatever, these are not important things. Long Yu waved his hand casually. The dignified Lieutenant General Bastius was able to look at this paper-painted martial arts body because Rob Lucci had been hiding in the 7th city of water to carry out his mission. How many people can force him to do his best for this existence known as the strongest 9 on Judiciary Island for hundreds of years? What's more, as one of the hard-earned killers, who would openly give it to the Navy headquarters, so that the general public knew that they had this trick. Then it won't be fragrant. Teacher, is it really possible? Why don't I let you talk to Mr. Zephyr or Mr. Karp on the phone? Maybe it will help the teacher's research further. Bastiu's eyes instantly heated up. During this time, his 6 forms also became more refined under Long Yu's tempering. Now if he can integrate everything Long Yu proposed, Bastius believes that he will definitely be able to go further as a vice admiral. Is also one step away from the position of the general. I don't need it, I only need an opportunity to perfect the 6 forms' profound truth. Long Yu rejected Bastius' proposal. Garp is the founder of the 6 forms, and Zephyr is the communicator, and communicating with them will help Long Yu find opportunities faster and make the 6 forms' profound truth instantly full. However, the system is Long Yu's secret, and he doesn't want to reveal too much. Your Majesty Laxus, the rapeseed court has arrived. Ecolem's voice suddenly sounded. Bastiu also put it away, looking like he was diligent and questioning just now. When he came, he already knew from Princess Weiwei's mouth what the deal was this time. Is about the Chiwu Sea and the secret invasion of Alabasta, a big desert country, which is a big event. However, when I think of Chiwahai's detached identity, Stu felt powerless. Teacher, I put this note away first, but the students want to ask 1 or 2 questions. The teacher thinks how long it will take to perfect the paper-painted martial arts in the 6 forms' profound truth. Yu cherished the notepad in his hand and wrapped it in waterproof butter paper. However, when I thought about it, I was able to get such precious information by staying with you for a while. Although it is only a concept, the feasibility is very high, and Bastiu can't wait to send these materials back to the Navy headquarters for credit. It is also a good way to make up for the mistakes made on the Chambord Islands not long ago, and at the same time enhance the overall combat power of the Navy headquarters. After all, Long Yu's theoretical knowledge summarized in the instant full-level system is rich and complete. Is more complete and easy to understand than the set of the naval boot camp. Looking at Bastiu who was so anxious, Long Yu rolled his eyes helplessly and said, it may be an instant, or it may be 10 days and 8 days. It depends on luck. Bastiu is stunned. Suddenly, his eyes became more and more frenzied. This is the confidence that even Mr. Garp, who is a naval hero, has divided most of his life to create the 6 styles. Long Yu dared to say that in 10 days and 8 days, he completed the 6-style profound meaning paper painting of his martial arts body, which was undoubtedly beyond expectations. Looking at Bastiu, who had almost changed from an uncle to a fanboy, Long Yu rolled his eyes helplessly and looked towards the rapeseed court. It can be said that he is willing to send the information such as the 6 types and the 6 types of profound meanings summarized in the system to the Navy headquarters. That is also related to shocking the world and making the ocean shake. And Bastiu will be one of the most important pieces of Laxus to become the new textbook of the Navy headquarters. Lord Laxus, the ship is about to dock. Wei Wei opened her mouth to remind. This rapeseed port is one of our largest commodity ports in Alabasta. However, due to the drought, other port oases and freshwater resources have decreased, resulting in only rapeseed remaining in the Alabasta port. However, according to my calculations, if the dry weather continues, the rapeseed port will also be deserted, and at that time, the channel connecting Alabasta to the outside world will be completely cut off. Speaking of this, there was a hint of loneliness on Wei Wei's face. Looking back a few years ago, they were Alabasta, and looking at this world, they were also the only big country. Not at all comparable to those of the island nations of Dressrosa. Princess Wei Wei, don't worry, if you find out that this matter is really related to Chihuahai, our naval headquarters will definitely attack him. Bastius couldn't help but comfort him. However, this remark, apart from attracting Wei Wei's slap in the face, did not give any affirmation to the Navy headquarters. Chapter 469, The Cynicism of the Pirates. Seeing Wei Wei with a look of disgust, Bastius couldn't help but be silent. After all, let alone him, even the Navy headquarters needs to go through the process in the face of Krosidal, who is Shichibukai. Without substantive evidence, one can't do anything to Chihuahai at will. However, this process of collecting evidence is enough to make Crocodile take revenge 10,000 times. Under the leadership of Wei Wei, Long Yu and his party landed on the pier. However, in Wei Wei's mouth, it was the only remaining port in Alabasta, but it seemed unusually quiet, and there were not many merchant ships coming and going, not to mention the handover person that Wei Wei said. Princess, didn't you contact Bell to meet him here? Where is he? Ikulem's expression couldn't help changing. He was skeptical about trading with Long Yu. But now this situation has undoubtedly tightened his nerves. After all, he and Princess Wei Wei have been away from Alabasta for more than half a year. Come back suddenly now, let alone Bell, I'm afraid even the king can't wait to fly to meet him. Wharf is empty right now, and it's not good news for them. Lord Laxus. Wei Wei looked at Long Yu subconsciously. During the time they spent together, the more she knew about Long Yu, the more she understood that some things that were difficult in front of her were nothing at all when they came to Long Yu. The town over there. Long Yu frowned and looked at the town bordering the port. However, before Long Yu could finish speaking, Vivi and Ikulem rushed out on the quick run duck. Bastiu, who was watching this scene, was about to say something, but the two had already left. Come on, let's have a look too. After Long Yu gave an order, he picked up Nami beside him. The violent scene made Nami stunned at first, then her cheeks flushed instantly, and she said anxiously, "You, what are you doing with so many people here?" What to do? Was obviously thinking crookedly, said, "Of course I will take you on the road, or you think you can keep up with our speed, or let Basti hold you." Hurry up. Let Bastius hold me. Nami was stunned for a moment, and after seeing Bastiu's shabby appearance, she obediently closed her mouth and stayed in Long Yu's arms. Seeing this scene, Da's pretty face turned pink. At the same time, a small town several kilometers away from the port. Town, the wind is not blowing a large tract of sand. In the uniforms of the royal guards were being surrounded by a group of pirates. The pirates was a spiky-haired man wearing a mud-colored long gown and sunglasses. As for standing beside him, it was a woman who was holding an umbrella, wearing a headscarf, and wearing a little revealing clothes. If Wei Wei is present, you can definitely recognize at a glance that these two are senior officials of the Baroque Work Society. And Valentine's Day. Hee, I didn't expect to be able to meet Belle, the patron saint of Alabasta here. Originally, you were hiding in Albana, and it was difficult for me to hunt you, but you came to the rapeseed by yourself, but I can't let you go out alive. Hands in his trouser pockets, he said with a playful smile. You are in the black market, and the head on the item is worth 8 million Baileys. The sudden interception made Bel's expression turn blue. He never thought that the pirates in front of him would dare to attack them so blatantly in Alabasta. However, this can't blame Bel for underestimating the enemy. Due to the drought, during this period of time, the rebels attacked the rapeseed port many times, and the strength of the guards was weakened. Opportunity for people from the Baroque working club who often haunt here and disguise themselves as pirates. Moreover, in the face of Princess Wei Wei, who has been missing for a long time, Bel is also anxious to meet her. Thinking of this, Bel's expression sank, and he shouted anxiously, "Pirates, this is the land of Alabasta, we are the royal capital guards, if you don't retreat, it will be regarded as an enemy of us Alabasta." An enemy of you Alabasta. Was stunned for a moment, then laughed loudly, and said, "Not even a sick cat that the rebel army has suppressed, yet dare to tell such a big joke. Today, if we don't leave, how can you do anything to us? Of course, if you give me the head on your neck in person, I might spare you." Of playful words echoed in the wind and sand. The guards have obviously become, they can't contain their anger. Once upon a time, the dignified big country Alabasta will make a group of pirates ridiculed. For a time, everyone's eyes fell on Bel. Feeling the change in the atmosphere in the arena, and the appointed time, getting closer and closer. Bel's face sank, and he made a gesture directly. "Go." Drinking like thunder, Bel, one of the patron saints of Alabasta, rushed out first. Chapter 470, But They Won't Let Them Escape. With his devil fruit ability, his strength and speed undoubtedly overwhelm everyone. Like a sharp arrow, it appeared in front of Five first. His right hand like lightning, he grabbed the saber at his waist and suddenly unsheathed it the next moment. In his eyes, the abominable pirate in front of him was too overbearing, ignoring his speed. As long as his sword is unsheathed, he will definitely be able to defeat this arrogant person in an instant. Uncle Bel, leave him quickly. There was a sudden shouting sound. Bel was stunned for a moment, but before he could react, the man in front of him had already laughed playfully. "I caught you." Clasped Bay's shoulders, and the next moment, a wave of fiery air surged out of him. Boom! A low explosion sounded like thunder. The powerful air waves rolled back like a frenzy. The guards and some temporarily organized pirates were blown away one after another. The expressions of Vivi and Ikaram, who arrived in a hurry, changed drastically. After the sandstorm and the blast dissipated, Five with a nonchalant expression walked out slowly carrying Bel, who was covered in black smoke. "Yo, isn't this one? You were called Uncle Bel just now. It seems that your identity is not simple." Playfully looked at Vivi and Ikalem. "Or, you're Princess Wei Wei who disappeared not long ago in Alabasta." The small voice spit out, and at this moment, it was like a magic sound, echoing in the wind and sand, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time. Vivi and Ikarem's expressions suddenly changed. They could react, a coquettish shout suddenly sounded in the sky. "Light and fluttering fruit 5,000 catties." Squeak sounded abruptly, instantly tense the nerves of Vivi and Ikalem. They had just joined the Baroque Work Club, but they had also performed missions together with the two of them. It is very clear what fruit ability the two have. Before I could think about it, I hurriedly looked up at the sky, and a charming figure had already fallen from the sky like a meteorite. Who witnessed this scene, subconsciously wanted to withdraw. However, as soon as she moved, she sent out a lot of tiny bombs made by Five. Moreover, Valentine's Day falling from the sky was clearly aimed at her. Regardless of how she dodges slightly, will be hit. Witnessing this scene, Bel, who was originally injured, changed his face and shouted anxiously, "Princess, I'm here to save you now." Princess said, she couldn't help but startled, and then she laughed horribly. In his eyes, being able to capture the Princess of Alabasta is simply an effortless effort. Thinking of this, I hurriedly looked at Valentine's Day, which was falling rapidly from the sky. However, the first scene that caught his eye caused his pupils to shrink suddenly. A ghostly figure, one step ahead, appeared by Wei Wei's side, and his right hand was lifted straight into the sky like lightning. The violent scene made Valentine's Day startled for a moment, and then laughed playfully. The arrogant, who wants to save the beauty in front of this lady, let me be seriously injured. Bang! The voice fell. Valentine's Day, like a heavy weight, had a close contact with Long Yu's right hand. As for the so-called 5,000 Jin giant force, it fell on Long Yu's body, and even the rock floor under his feet did not collapse. This meant that the so-called giant impact was completely offset by Long Yu himself. Situation has changed. I can't think about it, I shouted in a hurry. Valentine's Day, hurry up and retreat. Valentine's Day, I have been working with 5 for a long time. After hearing this, I didn't have time to think about it, and quickly reduced my weight to a pound. However, before she could withdraw and retreat violently, the playful laughter fell into her ears. I'm sorry, but I won't let them escape. Long Yu grinned mischievously, and with a little force with his 5 fingers, he directly clasped the buttocks. On Valentine's Day, I just felt a different kind of shock and sour feeling, and the whole body appeared a little sour. Before she could react, a crackling thunder sounded. Was a flower in front of him, directly dragged by Long Yu and Wei Wei, like a teleportation, appearing more than 10 meters away. The next moment, the bombs scattered all around exploded. Bang bang bang, so fast. Bel's pupils shrank suddenly. In his eyes, he is also the patron saint of Alabasta. He is also an animal-type devil fruit ability expert who is good at speed. However, facing the momentary lateral movement just now, even Long Yu's movements could not be clearly seen. No, it should be said that Bel saw clearly, that claw in the dark, but it ended up with a solid one. 470th chapters, each take advantage of strength. Mr. Laxus, much, thank you for saving me. Wei Wei came back to her senses, looking at the sudden appearance of Long Yu, looking a little surprised. Hee, don't forget, before the transaction is completed, you are the object of my transaction. Of course, I will not let you get hurt easily. Long Yu laughed dryly, and looked up as if he was still there, enjoying Valentine's Day while wandering. At this glance, I quickly brought back the Valentine's Day that was immersed in sourness. Feeling the gazes from all around, Valentine's Day, his cheeks flushed, and he shouted in a hurry, hurry up and let go of your hand, or I will crush you to death. Release. Long Yu cast an abusive look at Valentine's Day and said, if you take the initiative to deliver things to your door, there is a reason to let go. You can kill me, and I can make a move. This is called taking advantage of each other's abilities. You, Valentine's Day, suddenly angry. No, it should be said that even Princess Wei Wei, and the cheeks of Dusky and Nami couldn't help but blushed. This is taking advantage of them, and they have seen a lot of people, but taking advantage of them can take advantage of people who are so righteous. It was the first time they saw it. Valentine's pretty face flushed red, and he gritted his teeth and shouted, okay, very good, if you don't let go, then blame yourself for being too lustful, smash it into meat sauce for me. 10,000 pounds of gravity. She drank like thunder, and there was awe-inspiring murderous intent between the lines. However, the momentum is very strong, and the queue is also very large. However, in the face of Long Yu's holding up brother-like gesture, the gesture of the 5-clawed golden dragon was almost as stable. In the face of the so-called 10,000 Jin giant force, it is simply motionless. Is this your best effort? Long Yu returned to his usual arrogant attitude of Laxus character. The moment Huo Ran raised his head, this change of demeanor made Valentine's Day startled, and nodded subconsciously. The next moment, the words that fell in her ears shook her nerves. The riot should be over, madly suppress the raging waves. The violent thunder light flashed in Long Yu's body. The crackling razor swam off, heading straight for Valentine's Day. Ah, Valentine's Day, just let out a miserable cry, and the whole person is drowned by the lightning. Looking at Long Yu, who suddenly changed his posture and took care of Valentine's Day. That breezy and light-hearted attitude was basically interpreting that sarcastic remark just now. Takes advantage of their own strength. When I think of it, Princess Weiwei and this kind of bully are together, in case there is a hard reason. That would probably be helpless. I'm sorry, she's a girl, and I happen to be a gentleman, so I wasted some time to solve it. Long Yu casually threw aside the fainted Valentine's Day. His eyes turned in vain, and locked on 5 feet's body. Looking at this scene, I woke up startled, and subconsciously took a half step back. For Valentine's Day's approach, it seemed a bit monotonous. Able to stand in the same place as if nothing had happened under the 10,000-pound gravity, the person in front of you is definitely not simple. Thinking of this, the left hand hidden in the trouser pocket suddenly turned out. Before everyone could react, they threw it out. The golden yellow fine sand turned into a large bomb at the moment it escaped from 5 feet's hands, shrouding Long Yu head-on. Who witnessed this scene, changed his expression and shouted anxiously, "Mr. Laxus, I'll help you." However, before he could make a move, Long Yu stepped forward to face the bombs in the sky. In Bastius's eyes made his pupils shrink suddenly. Puff puff. A series of air-breaking sounds echoed suddenly. Dark bomb shadows rushed towards Long Yu. However, in the face of all this, Long Yu not only did not move his steps to dodge a lot. On the contrary, in full view, he closed his eyes, completely turning a blind eye to the incoming attack. Looking at this inexplicable scene, the nerves of the people present were suddenly tense. However, before they could react, Long Yu's whole person, like a catkin, swayed with the wind. The miniature bombs that attacked from the sky, every time they just approached Long Yu's body. That was close to 2 meters, like an iron tower changed at an incredible angle. It felt like a slippery piece of paper. However, this is just the beginning. When the sky bomb passed through Long Yu's body, Long Yu's muscular body suddenly shrank. The whole person gives the feeling that it is like a thin circle. Everyone could react. He took a step forward before the bomb detonated, and disappeared out of thin air. The violent scene makes people have the illusion that thinking can't keep up. It was when he felt that his eyes flashed, a black shadow filled his eyes, and the speed was so fast that his nerve strings were tense to the extreme. Before I could think about it, I immediately roared in anger. "Boy, you dare to approach me and blow me up." Chapter 472, The Creator of Paper-Painted Martial Arts. Boom. As a bomber, you can act as a bomb, even your booger is no exception, detonating in an instant. Bell, who had the ability of the animal-type devil fruit just now, was also careless, and was directly affected by the explosion the moment he approached him. It can be said that now it is holding this fatal blow, which will severely damage Long Yu. Bang! Successive explosions resounded like thunder. Under the violent wind waves, the rock formations and the ground beneath the feet also collapsed, and large pieces of gravel were swept up and flew down, setting off a wave of sand. It can be said that dozens of fixed-point detonations were caused in the moment just now. After a full half a minute, the sound of the explosion gradually dissipated, and there was a smile on his face when he looked at the battlefield that had already changed beyond recognition. However, just as the smile appeared, a big, stout, giant bear-like hand, covered with pitch-black metallic colors, protruded directly from the sand and dust in the sky. In front of everyone's eyes, it was buckled on his shoulder, and the words that fell in his ear shook his nerves. "Sorry, I caught you." The indifferent voice was mixed with a hint of arrogance. Before Five could react, another big hand stuck out, like a heavy hammer, and hit him in the abdomen. Bang! The dull thunder-like collision sound resounded suddenly. Under the venting of huge strength, the whole person, like a cannonball, flew out directly. It finally hit a rocky hill dozens of meters away. The violent scene made Bell, who had just calmed down, stunned. When he saw clearly, in the sand and dust, Long Yu, who came out in the shape of a giant bear more than 2 meters tall, with his dark and domineering armed color, made his pupils shrink. The one just now was the domineering use of two colors, and the paper-painted martial arts body that controls the speed and power transformation. Teacher, he succeeded. Bastius was stunned for a moment, and then he cried out in surprise. She rubbed her eyes. In his eyes, just a moment ago, Long Yu had said that it would take 10 days and 8 days. But now, as soon as it touches the battle, the three are perfectly used in the battle. If you don't see it with your own eyes, who wants to believe it's true? Is this the helper that the princess brought back? Belle couldn't help but muttered. In the phone bug, Belle and Wei Wei had exchanges. However, it was only mentioned a little that the person behind the suspected Baroque work club has been found. And who, secretly, is using dancing powder to exacerbate the drought in Alabasta, resulting in frequent civil unrest. But I didn't expect that the help that Wei Wei brought back can easily defeat the senior cadres of the Baroque work club. Teacher, how do we act now? After Bastiu tied 5 and Valentine's Day, he quickened his pace and came to Long Yu's side. As for those pirates who were originally gathered by 5, they had already seen that the momentum was not right and fled directly. You are the Navy, and the arrest of Shichibukai Crocodile in the future requires evidence of his use of dancing fans, so I hope you will investigate this aspect alone. Long Yu said lightly. In front of Bastius, he used the identity of Laxus. Facing the next action, it is not very convenient. It is the best way to spread Bastius. Bastiu couldn't help but be startled by the evidence of the dance fans' crime, and then nodded in agreement. The teacher is right, the identity of Chiwahai is also a special existence in our Navy, unless it is a last resort. Before there is no evidence of crime, the world government will absolutely no arrest warrant will be issued. So, to arrest Crocodile, I will gather evidence as soon as possible. However, teacher, your paper-painted martial arts body just now is really powerful. It can not only compress the muscles and increase the speed and explosive power, but also enhance the power of the attack to the extreme by enhancing the strength of the muscles. I can make this matter, tell the headquarters. Looking at Bastiu, who suddenly turned into a little fanboy, Long Yu nodded helplessly. Now, as long as Bastiu is quickly put away, let alone send the paper-painted martial arts body out. Don't mind even if Bastiu is packed and sent away. Thank you teacher, I will definitely report the teacher's identity as the creator of paper-painted martial arts. Bastius babbled again and again. Finally, under the gaze of everyone, he turned and left. Looking at this scene, Long Yu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. However, as soon as the breath was expelled, a rush of calls from the phone worm resounded. The eyes of everyone in the field turned in vain, and fell on the phone bug that rolled on the ground from 5. Mosamoxi, I'm all Sunday. A cold voice suddenly sounded. In an instant, the expressions of Vivi and Ecolem changed drastically, and they quickly lowered their voices and said, This is the voice of the Vice President. When the President doesn't appear, she is in charge of the affairs of the Baroque Work Club. For Vivi and Ecolem, who used to be members of the Baroque Work Society, the existence of this whole Sunday is like a lingering nightmare. However, watching Long Yu bend over and pick up the phone bug, his nerve strings tightened, and he was eager to see how Long Yu would answer. Chapter 473, Prince Mr. Hello, Nico Robin. Hello, Nico Robin. The light voice seemed to be infused with a magic voice, directly hitting the depths of Nico Robin's soul through the phone bug. Bang! The sound of heavy objects falling to the ground came without warning. That feeling was simply shocked by Long Yu's words. Nicole Robin. Princess Vivi and Ecolem couldn't help but froze in place. Long time, the acting president of the Baroque Work Club gave them the feeling that Gao Ling said that he was calm and calm. A strange woman who pushes the first-class senior department to the top. However, now, because of Long Yu's greeting, she was so shocked. If you don't see it with your own eyes, who wants to believe that all this is true? Who the hell are you? I don't know what Nicole Robin is. I'm Baroque Works, acting president all Sunday. The hurried voices lost the coldness they had just now. Facing Long Yu's sudden name, it undoubtedly disrupted her posture. Hearing this, Long Yu said with a playful smile, "If you say you're not Nico Robin, that's not it. As for me being a son." Nico Robin was stunned for a moment, and subconsciously searched the members of the Baroque Work Club in her mind. However, he soon woke up, and the people who could be named were the senior cadres in the Baroque Work Club. And these people are unique, and the number is very rare. There isn't one at all. Son of this number. Just that before Nico Robin goes, the phone bug has already heard a busy tone. Looking at this scene, Nico Robin couldn't help but froze in place. That feeling, like a boxing punch, makes people angry and has nowhere to shed. Nicole Robin, what happened to make your dignified son of sin show such an expression? Rain Banquet, as the base of the Sand Crocodile, is also the headquarters of the Baroque Work Society. Nico Robin has always been hiding here, handling various things for the Sand Crocodile. It can be said that before completely taking Alabasta as his own, Crocodile will not show his fangs in the hero's mask. At the same time, it will not be associated with the Baroque Work Society. Otherwise, once the matter is exposed, the Baroque Working Group will live in Alabasta. Moving things will become the Navy headquarters, and even the world government's handle against him. Looking at Crocodile, who suddenly pushed in the door, Nico Robin recovered and said with a pale face, "I contacted 5 just now and found that he was killed by someone," that person claimed. "Prince, you can even call me by my name." The child called your name, Crocodile's expression involuntarily gloomy, and said, "Have you found any information? Or, there are some foreign and unfamiliar faces in Alabasta recently, and our Baroque Work Club, have you provoked anything, people?" In Crocodile's eyes, he chose Alabasta as his target precisely because it existed in the first half of the Great Channel. This can avoid encountering those monsters in the New World. At the same time, if you can get it, the secret of Hades hidden in Alabasta. For Crocodile, it was the key to returning to the New World for revenge. Shaking, "Not yet." Nico Robin shook her head. However, he quickly remembered something and said, "It's just that something happened in Rogue Town not long ago." Quote. During the execution of the mission, I once invited a newcomer named Laxus. I heard that in addition to defeating the Navy Colonel and Smoky Small, he also briefly fought against the General Qingzi, and he did not fall behind. It's just, according to the intelligence reply, defeated, and was taken away by Qingji and Smoke, and the 2 who were on the mission with him also disappeared. The slightly long-sounding voice echoed in the conference room, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time. The kid who played against Qingzi. Crocodile frowned, picked up the information on the table, flipped through it, and then snorted coldly, saying, "It turned out that the Navy was trying to recruit him. I thought he could really get along with Ching. A childish monster confronts him head-on. As for the strength of the general, it is known as the existence of the highest combat power in the naval headquarters, and even the unruly existence of Crocodile has to admit it. You don't think you need to pay attention to him?" Nico Robin looked at Crocodile and asked anxiously. Right now, it is implicated, and the reason why someone broke her identity. Thinking of those days of escape, for Nicole Robin, it was a nightmare. Especially in Qingzi's hands, she walked through the gate of hell over and over again. Chapter 474, Refused to Execute. HMPH, a mere newcomer. If I still need to take the time to deal with it, then my identity as Chihuahua will be lost. Crocodile snorted disdainfully. However, if he dares to set foot, Alabasta, I will turn him into a man with my own hands, and hang him on the gate of the rain feast. The awe-inspiring voice echoed in the conference room, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time. Looking at the confident Crocodile, Nico Robin suddenly fell into silence. Immediately, he took out another stack of information with his backhand, and said, "This is the Chihuahua recruitment order. The Navy headquarters asks you to carry out the task of encircling and suppressing Wald. Are you planning to set off?" Encirclement walled. Crocodile's expression sank, and he said, "That's a lunatic. I didn't expect him to be released. I heard that this time the prison escape was led by the great skeleton demon. Later, after the chaos in the Chambord Islands, it disappeared. Now the reward is 1 billion Baileys." Nico Robin said in a low voice. It can be said that the big event that happened not long ago, as long as people who are not blocked by the news, can clearly know how crazy the situation is. HMPH, what a reward of 1 billion, isn't it just killing 2 heavenly dragons and running away from a Kainu and Kizaru at the same time? Crocodile snorted disdainfully. Return to the Navy headquarters, I refuse to carry out this call. I don't believe that without me, they will not be able to solve the old man Walder, who should be like Whitebeard and die of illness sooner or later. If they don't want to, they will send some money over. Now that the plan is at a critical moment, I don't want to let it go. After dropping these words, Crocodile turned and left the conference room, leaving Nicole Robin alone. After all, after many days, the task of playing a hero will resume again. Watching Crocodile turn and leave, Nico Robin's face suddenly sank. She fled for more than 10 years, and in the end she was the only person in this world who could understand history other than the world government. Therefore, he was hired by Crocodile, and finally hit it off and became a so-called cooperative partner, running this Baroque work club. Someone broke her identity as soon as she opened her mouth, which really made her uneasy. She didn't want to go back to those days when she was in a hurry to escape. It was a nightmare for her. By the way, Nico Robin, don't think about running away, don't forget, you can. Enough to get rid of the naval headquarters and the pursuit of the world government, that is because you have the protection of my Shichibukai identity. Once you leave me, you will only become a lost dog. Who had just walked out of the gate, paused for a while, looked back at Nico Robin, and said warningly. After all, Nico Robin is the key to his return to the New World. Once, even history can't be seen through, it will be a fatal blow to his plan. Who finally disappeared from sight after leaving those words. While, Nico Robin still called the phone bug. She needs to make perfect preparations in order to find out the origin of this person who revealed her identity in one sentence. 3 days later, hundreds of kilometers away from the capital of Al Napa, Juba, known as the Oasis of Alabasta. Of city guards riding fast-running ducks rushed forward. The person at the head is the king of Alabasta, Neferutali Cobra, who is the 12th king of the kingdom of Alabasta and Vivi's father. However, over the years, he has been framed by Crocidar, resulting in the loss of the trust of the people. In the face of the country's situation of internal and external troubles, as the only beloved daughter, Wei Wei even left a message saying that she left the kingdom's blessing and went to find the mastermind behind the dance fans, and there was no news at all. Although in private, Cobra secretly sent many people to look for it, but unfortunately the sea is too big, and the domestic rebel army, because of drought and dancing fans, is also growing day by day. Coupled with a Chihuahua crocodile, it made things worse behind the scenes. With Cobra's means alone, there was absolutely no way to stop the rebellion. According to his calculations, there have been rebellions in 40% of the cities in Alabasta. It is only a matter of time before the rebellion spreads to the whole country if this situation develops. Where they cannot be contained, the only thing they can do is to abandon the cities outside Albana and stick to several major ports and inland areas. However, just when Cobra was undecided, the information that Vivi brought back surprised Cobra. That the Chihuahua was in chaos, and the soldiers have been moved to rescue, made Cobra feel an unbelievable feeling. Your Majesty, if we go further, we will reach the border of Juba. At that time, I am afraid that the rebel army stationed here will find it. Following behind Cobra, Yaka the Jackal, one of the 2 patron saints of Alabasta, looked forward with a dignified expression towards the completely desertified Juba. 470th chapters, in an ambush. Once upon a time, this was the largest oasis gathering place in Alabasta. If it weren't for the dance fan incident, snatch the rain that belongs here. This is definitely the emerald pearl on the map. I know. Cobra replied, with a hint of reminiscence on his face. It's just that in Vivi's communication, she asked us to arrive at Yuba before 12 o'clock. She said that there is a way to resolve the civil strife first. If it can be done, it would be the best thing for us. Quote. As the lord of a country, no one likes to watch their own country's civil turmoil, and even cannibalism. Hearing these words, Gaka looked a little more melancholy, and said, since His Majesty the King has made up his mind, Gaka did not persuade him too much. The only thing he can do is to stay by His Majesty's side and take good defense. Also, I also want to see what Her Royal Highness said, what can solve the problem of drought and civil strife in Alabasta. When these words fell, there was a hint of hope on many faces. After all, they are also tired of this civil unrest. Just that this idea just sprouted in their minds, and before they could react in the next moment, a large number of horses' hooves sounded all around. The desert rising from the dust, the wolf smoke rising in all directions, that scene gave people the feeling that they were in an ambush at all. It's an ambush. Gia's expression changed drastically, and he exclaimed anxiously, hurry up and protect His Majesty the King to break through, and the rest will fight with me. Voice fell, and the entire phalanx instantly moved. It can be said that, as a city guard, it is this time that they left the capital and rushed to Juba at all costs. Every soldier who was personally selected is trustworthy. At the same time, they also firmly believed that Cobra, the king of Alabasta, would never do such a thing that endangered the people. However, they obviously underestimated Juba, who was the place where the rebel army was stationed. In the case of pulling one and moving the whole body, the figure of the rebel army on all sides. In the scene of entering the goal, it is even more difficult to count. Your Majesty, we are surrounded, let yourself lead a team to protect His Majesty to break through the encirclement, and the others stay behind as Your Highness. Perhaps this time, as before, someone imitated His Highness the Princess and deliberately made His Majesty come to be trapped. Gaga's face changed suddenly. He is a devil fruit power. However, with his strength is simply that two fists are invincible to four hands, facing tens of thousands of rebel troops. Not to mention a deadly battle, even breaking through is harder than reaching the sky. If Bell was there, he might be able to use his flying ability to save Cobra. But now looking at the rebel army that is gradually besieging, this scene is probably a surefire situation. Gaka, stop and let me go out. I believe that Vivi can bring back the savior who rescued Alabasta. As a king, I have to face these former citizens even more. Cobra said in a low voice. The words fall, immediately. Gaka's expression changed drastically, and he was about to persuade one or two. However, he had already seen Cobra, who shook his head and refused. Seeing that Cobra, who was the king, had made up his mind, after a moment of hesitation, Gaka signaled the surrounding defenders to make way, and at the same time took out the radio and handed it over. In the face of this mortal situation, the only way to ease the situation is to gain their trust. Then, wait for Princess Vivi to say that the savior of Alabasta will come. A huge encirclement was formed above the desert. The two armies facing each other at a distance, there was something even more. An inexplicable feeling of depression was created from the heart, shrouding the entire desert. Regardless of it was the city guard army or the rebel army with inferior equipment, his expression suddenly became very cautious. It can be said that no one is willing to start a war until they are forced to. The city guards split a road, everyone's nerves were stirred, and their eyes turned and locked on him. Feeling this gaze, Cobra secretly took a deep breath. He knew it well. This matter is not handled properly, it will be a disaster waiting for him. It was also the last infighting in the kingdom that he didn't want to see. Everyone, I'm Cobra, King of Alabasta. This time, I'm not here to fight you, but to solve the civil strife in Alabasta and find out who is behind the scourge of the kingdom. At the same time, Vivi is also in Alabasta. In addition, please come to the rescue of our country, so I hope that any of you will come out and talk to me face to face and deal with it properly. Cobra clenched the phone bug in his hand and said in a deep voice. At the same time, his eyes swept across the rebel army, trying to find the leader hidden behind the scenes. Chapter 476. Wait 10 minutes. Don't look for it, here I am, King Cobra. An indifferent voice came from the rebel army. Soon, you can see a teenager in a refugee costume squeezed out of the crowd. Seeing this unfamiliar figure in front of him, Cobra couldn't help but be startled. You are Kosha. Little impression of this Kosha, who followed his father in and out of Albana, and then came to Yuba to develop. However, Cobra never imagined that this inconspicuous young man was the leader of the rebel army. Yes, I'm Kosha. Originally, I planned to kill you, but for the sake of your mention of Wei Wei just now, I'll give you a chance to speak. Kosha said in a low voice. We actually don't believe what you just said about the mastermind behind the scenes. After all, many people have seen with their own eyes that you direct people to use dancing powder to capture rainwater in other places, and shoot refugees who oppose you. Suffice to say, we have 100 reasons to kill you. The slightly long-sounding voice echoed in the desert for a long time and could not be dissipated. Gaka's face sank, and he was about to say something, but was stopped by Cobra's probe. Kosha, thank you for the opportunity to let me speak, but this time it was Vivi who contacted me and asked me to come to Yuba, tell Alabasta, and found a savior, so I don't know too much. I hope you let us wait for her to show up. Cobra met Kosha's gaze and said in a deep voice. Just wait, as soon as these words fall, immediately. Had the opposite effect. Kosha said, King Cobra, are you kidding us? Let us wait here. Do you think we will be stupid enough to wait for your army to arrive, and then be wiped out by you? I'll give you 10 seconds now. If you can't give a sufficient reason, even if my father pleads with you, I will cut off your head and hang it on the Tower of Juba. Doto. Hearing this, Cobra couldn't help but be startled, looking at the skinny old man who was stopped behind Kosha by the crowd, with a hint of guilt on his face. After all, that day he entrusted Doto, former Juba. It was also because of him that this Alabasta oasis was directly destroyed. Facing the tearful old man in front of him, Cobra shook his head and said, I really do and know, and I don't have the heart to fight to the death with you. If you really want my head, then you will wait for Wei Wei's arrival. Then you can come and get it. These words fall, the field is neutral. Engraved. Become agitated. Your Majesty, don't mess around. If Her Royal Highness the Princess comes back and can't see you safe and sound, you will definitely blame yourself. Gaka was the first to lose his breath and persuaded in a hurry. Captain Gaka is right. Your Majesty the King, you must protect yourself. We will do our best to protect you. We will all swear to protect His Majesty the King. Scene suddenly boiled, and all the city guards suddenly clenched the weapons in the book. The face of this violent scene, the atmosphere in the field was undoubtedly pushed, and it became, the sword was drawn and the sword was rising. All eyes turned and locked on Kosha's body. It can be said that as long as he gives an order now, the war will be triggered. Kosha, listen to me, trust His Majesty the King once, or I will kill myself in front of you. Suddenly Dodo burst out of the crowd. Looking at the dazzling sharp blade in his hand, Kosha's expression suddenly changed. Turning his eyes subconsciously, he looked at Cobra and said, Cobra, for my father's sake, I'll wait another 10 minutes. If Princess Wei Wei doesn't show up, then we'll just blame us for being rude. By the way, I forgot to tell you that along the way, there are all the eyes of our rebel army, which is why we can close the net so accurately and trap you here. As for why I am so sure, this is your lie, because the eyeliner along the way has no information about witnessing Princess Wei Wei at all. Unless she is flying, the Buddha cannot escape from my control at all. What's more, I, Kosha, have been completely disappointed with your royal army. No one can solve the problem of Alabasta except me. The awe-inspiring voice echoed in the huge desert. It made Yaka and the other city guards face ashen. However, before they could react, a huge black shadow, with an inexplicable oppressive force, projected down from the sky. Roar! The sound of the dragon's roar exploded like thunder. The hurricane, which was set off without warning, swept down like a frenzy. When a large piece of yellow sand is rolled up, it gives the illusion of flying sand and rocks. Facing this violent scene, the people present, let alone Cobra, even Kosha, who was full of arrogance just a moment ago, couldn't help but look up into the sky. However, the sight of the behemoth caused their pupils to contract suddenly, and their eye sockets almost split. Some people couldn't help but exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 477, Bone Dragon. Yes, it's a dragon. No, it's a group of bone dragons. Like thunder shook everyone's nerves. It can be said that they lived all their lives, and they never thought that they would be able to see the existence of dragons in this world. Moreover, it still seems to be a bone dragon from hell. Facing the moment before, clamoring that Wei Wei can only fall from the sky. That suddenly appeared now, the relationship between the front and the back, I am afraid it is about to come out. The huge desert, the confrontation between the revolutionary army and the king's army. At this moment, it was as if he had been immobilized, and he was stunned in place. Looking at the four huge bone dragons hovering in the sky, under the rolled-up sand. Cobra woke up first, and hurriedly shouted, "Hurry back and make a way, everyone, don't be impatient, don't cause panic." The hasty reminder words made everyone in the field like a sculpture wake up one after another. It can be said that Cobra, who was the first to react, clearly showed the overall situation of being an emperor. Facing the sudden scene in front of them, the rebel army was obviously unable to stand, and they all pulled away and quickly retreated. Seeing this scene, the royal army also took the initiative to retreat. Soon, a 1,000-meter blank area appeared in the huge desert. Everyone's eyes turned in unison, locking on the four skull dragons in the sky. Roar! The voice of the dragon roared again. A huge bone dragon suddenly swung down under Senbai's bone wings and hovered in the void. The huge body of dozens of meters gives the impression that it is like a hill. The figures standing on the head of the bone dragon, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank. A moment ago, they were still guessing, who has such a big pomp and can control such terrifying bone dragons soaring in the sky. Never occurred to me that one of the patron saints of Alabasta, and Princess Wei Wei were among them. As soon as she saw the bone dragon, she laid her arrogant head on top and stood on the bone dragon's head. "Father, it's fortunate that you're fine, otherwise Wei Wei would be very sorry." Seeing the familiar face he had not seen for a long time, Cobra's eyes suddenly turned red. He couldn't help stroking Wei Wei's hair and said, "Girl, just come back. Don't run out at will in the future. You shouldn't be responsible for this kind of thing. It's the incompetence of your father that put you in danger. Looks like it's always been tough." Lang, the dignified king of Cobra, now there is a hint of weeping between his words. Undoubtedly, the originally tense atmosphere in the field has eased a little bit. Even Kosha, who was originally holding Cobra who was going to kill Cobra, changed his expression slightly and fell into silence. However, his eyes were still more on the skull of the bone dragon and on the other people. The face of such a debut card, it was completely beyond Kosha's cognition. He needs to urgently find out who is in charge, so that he can take the initiative of the matter in his hands. To obtain a favorable situation for the next negotiation. However, as soon as the idea came to her mind, Vivi broke free from Cobra's embrace and hurriedly said, "Father, I am leaving this time because I have sneaked into the Baroque Work Club. I suspect that they are using dance fans to plan to work in this country. To create chaos so that the mastermind behind the scenes, Crocodile, the sand crocodile in the Shichibukai, gets the power of Alabasta. So, this time, in order to resolve this matter, Mr. Uchiha Ryu and I have reached a cooperation agreement." Having said that, Wei Wei looked at Long Yu subconsciously and said, as long as he can solve the crisis in our Alabasta, we will give them the rapeseed port for 50 years. As soon as the remarks of giving the rapeseed port to people, the scene caused an uproar. It can be said that Alabasta is now facing severe drought and desertification. The remaining large ports have long been abandoned. Rapeseed port remains, still, in normal operation. However, as soon as Princess Weiwei opened her mouth, she told them that in order to solve the internal and external problems of Alabasta, she sent the most important port out for 50 years. Not to mention the king's army, even the rebel army could not accept it. Weiwei, do you know what you are talking about? The rapeseed port is now the economic lifeline of our Alabasta. You sent it out as soon as you opened your mouth, which made us Alabasta's worst. Kosha was the first to lose her breath and roared in anger. Even if you say that the Baroque Work Club and Shichibukai Crocodile are behind the scenes, do you think that these 4 bone dragons alone can save us Alabasta? If you want to pay this kind of price, you might as well give me the lifeline of Alabasta, and let me, Kosha, lead everyone to victory. The awe-inspiring voice was mixed with a sonorous and powerful taste between the lines. However, just after these words fell, the indifferent voice suddenly sounded with a taste that directly hit the soul. Chapter 478, Please Let Me Go. By you. No qualifications at all. Simple words, Long Yu moved without wind in his clothes. Under the flying magic, he slowly floated up on the head of the bone dragon. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves. Facing the leader of his own rebel army, he was actually questioned in public. Many people's hearts are full of anger. However, before they could react, a low roar roared out from Long Yu's body. Boom! Dormant, in Long Yu's body, the magic power like a raging tide was suddenly detonated. The pitch-black horse training, with a fierce attitude, directly hit the 9 heavens and clouds away. Up-air waves swept away in a rolling manner. Flying sand and walking under the stones even made the horses fall to the ground. However, all this is just the beginning. Looking at the endless black fog, slowly walking out of the huge white bone body, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank. At this moment, they finally knew the origin of the 4 bone dragons that were entrenched in the sky in front of them. When Long Yu's footsteps landed on the desert, the endless magic power that soared into the sky suddenly collapsed. The scene that was like flying sand and rocks was completely subsided. However, looking at the huge white skeleton in front of him, at this moment, the huge desert was enveloped by an inexplicable depressing aura, as if there was an invisible big hand tightly clenching their hearts. Especially Cobra, he is not. Other rebels can compare, as the king of a country, with an intelligence system. In addition to covering the whole country, he also knows a little about what happened abroad. In particular, he is also a Tianlong person, and he is more aware of the big event that happened in the Chambord Islands not long ago, and the public execution of Tianlong people. If he remembered correctly, he had seen the reports from the people in front of him from the news not long ago. However, since he was so devastated by the rebellion at the time, he didn't take it to heart. At the moment, seeing Long Yu's Bone King state, those memories were directly evoked. However, before he could speak, Gaka, who was beside him, had already exclaimed. He is the big skeleton demon who publicly executed the Tianlong reward of 1 billion. Skull Demon, a reward of 1 billion. Kosha couldn't help but be startled, and even the others were dazed. For ordinary people like them, 1 billion is an astronomical number, but more comes from a dazed sense of power. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Long Yu showed his. I'm afraid it's not clear at all. What is the concept of great magic pressure? Kosha, I know you don't understand. What does this mean? Let me explain. Cobra glanced at Long Yu fearfully, and hurriedly said after realizing that he had no intention of stopping him. I believe that everyone has already known about Kibui Crocodile. Crocodile Kosha subconsciously nodded and said, that guy, he has occupied the rain banquet for the past few years, and from time to time he has beaten some foreign pirates and saved a lot of civilians. I heard that among the pirates, his strength is also the top existence, and he has been recognized by the world government. In the face of Kosha's remarks, many rebel armies, and even the king's army, couldn't help but nod their heads in agreement. It can be said that in their eyes, the strongest and most arrogant man they have ever seen is Crocodile. Looking at this scene, Cobra took out a piece of the reward, which looked a little old. Wore to remind himself when Crocodile appeared in Alabasta. He never believed that a vicious big pirate would put down his body and be a good person. Only a little brain knows. That was suddenly taken out. I was stunned at first, and then they all narrowed their eyes and looked at the reward order. Is it 800 million? It looks like this skeleton demon is a bit stronger than Crocodile. However, with this disparity in strength, is it possible to win steadily? The chattering discussion sounded one after another. However, before they could discuss the result, an exclamation suddenly came out. No, you see, 800 million. 80 million reward, he is not 800 million. The small voice, at this moment, seemed to be filled with magical sounds, echoing in the huge desert for a long time, and there was no way to disperse. Looking at the terrifying posture that stood on the yellow sand, like a skeleton, many people couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Especially the person just now, who was talking about his strength and whether he would win with confidence. His legs trembled like a twist, and he fell to the ground with a thud, begging for mercy in a hurry. Sir, I'm sorry, I offended you with my shallow eyes, please let me go. The violent scene made the originally depressing situation sink even more. In their eyes, there is an existence known as the top powerhouse at sea, and it is also good to offer a reward of 800 million. Chapter 479, Negotiations. The current skeleton demon has been offered a reward of 1 billion. If one were to use a bounty to measure one's own strength, the difference would be more than 10 times, which was simply an astronomical figure. Of course, Long Yu will not correct this misunderstanding. He wants to establish a station in Alabasta. A fear must first be planted in their hearts, so that they can act later. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, the fidelity of Ains Gong has been increased to 60%. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, you have obtained the 6th order magic weather manipulation. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, you have obtained the super magic world change. The ethereal prompting sounds of the system sounded one after another, causing Long Yu to raise his brows, and then he couldn't help but laugh. The 6th order magic weather manipulation can change the weather with the strength of magic. In the original book, when the Bone King invited the Blood Emperor to the great tomb of Naxray, he used this trick to turn a rainy day into a sunny day. As for the new superposition magic, it is the same level as the Skyfall mastered by Long Yu before. However, Skyfall is a powerful attack magic, and the change of heaven and earth can not only change the weather, but also can turn water into desert and lava into iceberg with the caster. It can be said that once Long Yu has mastered this trick, he will be able to suppress the awakening of the opponent's devil fruit ability to some extent. After all, to drive the devil fruit ability, assimilate all the surrounding buildings and rock formations, etc. The physical strength and fruit strength required are definitely not small. Once the opponent successfully casts it, Long Yu uses heaven and earth change to change the fruit world of assimilation. For example, when facing the red dog, the sky is filled with lava, and the next moment it turns into the rolling water of the Yangtze River. It would probably be a nightmare for him. However, the only thing that makes Long Yu feel regret is the premise of changing the world, which requires his own magic power as the basis. This means that the range that can be changed will be limited. Lord Ains, my father wants to talk to you about the details of the transaction, and Kosha, the leader of the rebel army, also wants to participate in the negotiation. Wei Wei's hesitant voice suddenly sounded. Long Yu's thinking retreated from the consciousness space, and the darkened soul eyes, the flames soared again, said, no problem. In Long Yu's eyes, negotiating or not negotiating is meaningless at all. It can be said that he will soon become the savior of this country. But passing through the door is also a guest, and Long Yu doesn't have the heart to go to a big country, and he needs to use the guise of manpower. Are you here? Why didn't we move, Barney? Kosha was stunned for a moment, and said hesitantly. To this point, Cobra nodded silently. Having seen the power of Long Yu with my own eyes, and after surpassing Crocodile's bounty by more than 10 times, he was clearly in awe. At least, they can't do the so-called negotiation in the desert in front of them. It's too much trouble, no need. Long Yu said coldly. The scepter in his hand suddenly stomped towards Wangsha. The endless black mist rolled backwards, and the white bone emperor chair made of skeletons quickly condensed under the watchful eyes of the public. A conference table more than 10 meters long quickly opened. At the same time, several chairs were added around for them to sit on. Of course, compared with Long Yu's king chair, the others are obviously a bit shabby. However, in the face of this scene in front of them, what they care about is not shabby or shabby. On the contrary, it is the means in front of me that I can change with my hands. At least, this has subverted their cognition. Have a seat, my guests. Long Yu held the scepter and sat down with a golden sword. Soul Flame jumping eyes swept across the field, saying, Tell me, what are your thoughts? As long as they are reasonable, I will consider them as appropriate. The voice fell, immediately. Pulled back everyone's thoughts. However, before Kosha could speak, Cobra hurriedly waved his hand and said, Lord Ains, we don't have any excessive demands. It's just that you have to lease the Rapeseed port for 50 years, but it is now the only remaining port in Alabasta and our last economic lifeline. Do you think you can leave us a right to use it? Using Quan Long Yu's eyes, the soul flame jumped slightly. He had already expected this request. However, his Narasok necropolis will be built on the port of Rapeseed. If it is to be shared, it will have an impact on his construction. At the same time, it will also weaken the mystery of the Great Tomb of Narisik, losing the shock it deserves. I refuse, this is the premise of my trade. Long Yu said in a deep voice. Rejecting Cobra and Kosha's expressions changed drastically. No, it should be said that even Wei Wei was no exception, and hurriedly said, Lord Ains, can we pay the fee? Alabasta originally had 4 major ports, but other ports have long been abandoned due to drought and sandstorms. As long as Your Excellency Ains is willing to make concessions, after we have resolved the matter of Crocodile, we will try again to restore the use of other ports. At that time, we will definitely hand over the Rape Flower port to Your Excellency Ains. The hasty words echoed over the desert, and everyone's eyes were locked on Long Yu's body. Chapter 480, The water source was poisoned. It can be said that Alabasta is now in the midst of internal and external troubles. A large part of the place is even more severely aridified. Not to mention edible water, even the normal food supply must be transported in from the outside world. It is precisely because of this reason that things such as price gouging happen, which makes the already heavy life even worse. Now, as soon as Long Yu opened his mouth, he took the Rapeseed port away. That means that they are completely cut off from the outside world. Unless you venture to a deserted dock with no supplies, it is impossible to obtain resources from the outside world. And the products of Alabasta are shipped out to sea. Don't worry, I will help you to restore the port. Under the watchful eyes of the public, Long Yu stretched out his big bones and gently rubbed Wei Wei's head. It's for the sake of your daring to trade with me. For Long Yu, who now has the new superpower magic, as long as there is enough milk, it is not a problem to turn the entire desert country of Alabasta into an oasis. However, he will not do such thankless things, and will only help as appropriate. Seeing Long Yu's intimacy, Wei Wei's body froze, and the people around her even looked straight. After all, this is their high and unattainable princess. When has anyone been so frivolous? It's just that, during this period of time, as long as people who have stayed on the Dragon Feather ship know it. It's a habit of his. They were also used to Long Yu's caressing. At least, the man in front of him won't do anything out of the ordinary. Slowly withdraw his hand after stroking a few times. Cobra was about to say something. Urgent cry came quickly from a distance. Kosha, the big thing is bad. At the last sight of Yuba, the water source was poisoned, and many camels were poisoned to death. A man trotted on a camel. In the face of this violent scene, everyone's betrayal turned pale. One last look at the source of water. For them, they depend on Juba for survival. If they lost even this last source of water, it meant that they needed to give up Yuba completely and move to other places. Al, isn't the water source guarded 24 hours a day? Why was it poisoned, and where are those people? Kosha's expression changed, and he shouted in a hurry. Facing everyone's questioning gazes, El Said with a livid expression. Dead, they were all killed by others. Knife killed it, and by the time we got there, most of the camels had been poisoned to death. This is what God will cast out, our children of Juba. A depressing atmosphere suddenly enveloped the huge desert. The rapeseed flower was just taken away by Long Yu, and now Yuba's only water source has been poisoned again. For them, it was simply worse, causing the people in the field to be silent all of a sudden. Lord Ains, do you have a solution? Wei Wei bit her red lips and subconsciously looked at Long Yu, who was sitting on the White Bone King's chair. Intuition told her that to break this predicament, perhaps only the person in front of her could do it. Take me there, as a partner, or I'll give you a gift. Up slowly while watching. The scepter in his hand suddenly stomped, and 4 huge bone dragons lowered their proud heads. Come on, your camels are a little slow, keep up with me. Long Yu's clothes were moving without the wind. One step, the whole person disappeared in place like a ghost out of thin air. Appeared again, and it had already performed a short distance space shift, appearing on the bone dragon head dozens of meters away. Looking at this scene, the pupils of the people present suddenly shrank, and some people couldn't help rubbing their eyes to see if they were dazzled. However, more people are scrambling to get on top of the bone dragon. For them, it is a great honor to be able to ride on the dragon. It is even more bragging capital in the future. Ask, in the future, drink 2 more glasses, eat more side dishes, and say that I have ridden a bone dragon before. That's so powerful, it's just arrogant. For a time, someone rolled over and sat on the bone dragon, some couldn't catch up, and hurriedly hugged their thighs. It's really old arms and legs, can't compete with young people, and can only go away on a camel. As for the king's army, many people were also full of enthusiasm. It's just because of his identity and discipline, that he can only look at Cobra. Okay, don't stare, go up with your strength. Cobra laughed dryly and gave the order to sprint. However, he obviously ignored the temptation of the bone dragon for them. Tens of thousands of the king's army rushed over in an instant. Seeing that the sea of people almost drowned the bone dragon, Cobra couldn't help but said, Belle, take me and Vivi up quickly, this is my first time riding a dragon.